Hello, little friends. Welcome back to the Wise Owl where magical stories take flight. If you enjoy adventures, wisdom, and a sprinkle of magic, remember to like this video and subscribe so you never miss a story. Now let's meet a very special little girl. Her name is Matilda. In a quiet little town, far from the noise of big cities, there lived a tiny, polite girl named Matilda. She had bright, curious eyes that seemed to notice everything, and a gentle smile that made her look even younger than she was. But don't be fooled by her small size. Matilda's mind was like a treasure chest filled with brilliant ideas. Before she had even set foot in a classroom, Matilda could read books meant for grown-ups. She devoured fairy tales, mysteries, and adventure stories, one after another, as if they were sweets in a jar. Numbers, too, danced easily in her head. She could solve tricky sums faster than most adults. Her favorite place in the whole world was the library, where rows of books stood like old friends, waiting to share their secrets. But at home, things were different. Her parents didn't understand her love for learning. They thought television was the greatest invention ever made and spent hours glued to it, barely noticing the little girl quietly reading in the corner. Instead of praising her talents, they often told her not to be too clever. Matilda longed for anyone, who would see her the way she truly was. One sunny afternoon, Matilda sat in her small bedroom, a mischievous sparkle in her eyes. She had spent days watching her parents ignore her, laugh at her love for books, and treat her as if she were invisible. But Matilda wasn't the kind of girl to get angry and stomp her feet. No, she preferred cleverness. That morning, while her father was busy admiring himself in the mirror, Matilda tiptoed into the hallway, carrying a little bottle of strong glue. Quiet as a cat, she lifted his favorite hat and spread a thin, sticky layer inside. She replaced it exactly where it had been, then slipped away, smiling to herself. Later, while her mother was in the kitchen making soup, Matilda accidentally passed by the spice rack. She reached for the salt and, with the softest twist of her wrist, sprinkled in twice. No, 3 times the usual amount. She stirred it quickly so no one would notice. At dinner, everything went exactly as she had planned. Her father's hat refused to come off his head, and her mother made the funniest face after the first spoonful of salty soup. Matilda didn't say a word. She just sat quietly, her smile brighter than ever. When Matilda finally started school, she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. The building was big, with long corridors and the smell of freshly sharpened pencils in the air. On her very first day, she met Miss Honey, a gentle, soft-spoken teacher with kind eyes and a warm smile. Unlike anyone Matilda had ever known, Miss Honey noticed her talents right away. After watching Matilda read aloud and solve sums in seconds, she leaned down and whispered, "Matilda, you're special." Those simple words filled Matilda's heart with a happiness she had never felt before. But not everything at the school was so lovely. Lurking in the shadows of the playground and storming through the hallways was the principal, Miss Trunchbull. She was a tall, fearsome woman with a voice like thunder and a glare that could freeze even the bravest child in their tracks. She didn't believe in kindness. Instead, she believed in rules, discipline, and the strangest punishments imaginable. Children told stories of her lifting students by their pigtails or making them stand for hours holding heavy objects. Matilda could see it clearly. Miss Honey was a light in the school, and Miss Trunchbull was the dark cloud looming above it. Matilda had a secret, one so extraordinary that no one would ever believe it if she told them. She could move things, with nothing but her eyes. It had started small, a pencil rolling across her desk, a glass tipping over without her touching it. But the more she practiced in her room, the stronger her powers became. One morning, the dreaded Miss Trunchbull stormed into Miss Honey's classroom. Her heavy boots thudded against the wooden floor as she barked at the children. This time, she was here to frighten Miss Honey, shouting cruel words and towering over her like a giant shadow. Matilda's hands clenched into fists. She couldn't let this happen. Quietly, she focused her gaze on a stick of chalk lying near the blackboard. Her eyes narrowed and slowly, magically, the chalk lifted into the air. Miss Trunchbull didn't notice at first, too busy glaring at Miss Honey. But then the chalk began to write on its own, "Leave this school, or else." The words appeared in large, white letters. Miss Trunchbull's face turned pale as milk. Without another word, she spun around and marched out, her footsteps echoing down the hall. Matilda smiled to herself. She had won. From that day on, Matilda knew something very important. Her greatest strength wasn't just her magic. It was believing in herself. She had faced one of the scariest people she had ever met and stood up for what was right. That gave her a courage she never knew she had. With Miss Trunchbull gone, the school became a brighter, happier place. Laughter filled the classrooms, and children could play without fear. Miss Honey, no longer under the principal's shadow, smiled more often and taught with even more kindness. Matilda began spending more time with Miss Honey after school. They would sit together over tea and biscuits, reading stories or solving puzzles. One sunny afternoon, Miss Honey invited Matilda to live with her, explaining that sometimes families aren't just the ones we're born into. They're the ones who truly care for us. Matilda's heart felt warmer than ever before. In Miss Honey's small, cozy home, she found everything she had longed for: love, encouragement, and the freedom to be herself. Her days were now filled with books, laughter, and dreams about the wonderful things she would learn next. And so a new chapter of Matilda's life began, one she would treasure forever. And remember, little ones, even the smallest person can do big, wonderful things. Thank you, little friends, for joining me on Matilda's magical journey. If you enjoyed today's story, give it a big thumbs up, share it with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe so you can flutter back for more tales with me, the Wise Owl. Until next time, keep reading, keep dreaming, and keep believing in the magic inside you.